Okay, Shelle, you've written 3 books.
I've done 3 books,
And you have a guide or something here too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I hate to say the word workbook because it makes it sound like you're going to have to do a lot of work, but it's like a trilogy in that one workbook.
My first question was, what prompted you to write these 3 books? Because they all look like they're part of a group.
A group, yeah.
Is that true?
Yes, but I didn't know that I was going to be writing 3 books, then, an additional guide to go with these books when I started.
So you just started what? Just writing this?
I started with that one.
Okay, and this is Still the Pain.
Still the Pain. And how that began was I had been engaged to somebody and it just fell apart. I had no thought that this relationship would fall apart, and it just crumbled. So I was on the couch and I was like, what do I do? Like, what's my step? Like, I was so disoriented. And my phone popped on. Like, literally, it was by my side. It popped on. And I was like tuned in to this guy in New Zealand talking about a meditation practice. And I was like, that's obviously an answer. I'm not gonna. So I listened. It was like 4 hours long. He was talking about this practice. It was 4 hours long. And I was like, I know he's going to sell something in the end, obviously, but there's a lot of good information here, but I'm in. So I had to pretty much, my bank account was bruised after joining this 90-day work with him and his team. But as soon as I started practicing the meditation, I knew that I was going to go to New Zealand. And so I told him, like a week into it, I was like, I'm coming to see you. And he said, I know. And I was like, well, how do you know? And he's like, well, I already saw it in the meditation. And he's like, we won't talk about that yet, but down the road, we'll talk about it. So I finished up the 90 days, and by, not too long into it, we'd already planned the trip. I'd invited a friend to go with me. And I was there for a month in New Zealand, just taking what he was teaching to another level. But another thing that happened in that was right off the bat, I was told, you're going to write a book about this meditation practice. And I'm thinking, oh, great. I've studied many different types of meditation practices. I could write a book about this one. It's very unique. I think it needs to get out there. And so I thought that I was going to be writing about a meditation practice. I didn't know that it was going to be called Still the Pain. And I didn't know it was going to be about heartbreak, but that's what happened. And in fact, that the title in and of itself, like in the beginning, because the meditation is not about healing heartbreak, and it's not about traditional meditation stuff. In fact, it's geared towards business people. So he has like high-end clients that he works with that are trying to close like multi-million-dollar deals, $124 million deals. And sometimes in those big investments, they need everything to line up. All of players need to line up. The timing needs to be right. And so he would work with whoever was like structuring the deal or the business, and he would help get like them harmonized to the deal and the group harmonized so that everything just flowed smoothly. There was like no hiccups, and it just made that process so much easier. There was like less fighting. Everybody got satisfied. And so he was geared towards business people, but this was the answer that came into me when I had just broken up with somebody and I didn't know the direction I was going. And I thought, I'm in. So I go spend time with him when I get back, and I ask him, do you mind if I write about this meditation practice? And he's like, absolutely, do it. But I didn't know that I was going to be writing it towards women who are dealing with grief and pain. I could see the correlation and how it would help. So I was in Boise, Idaho, and I was starting to work with a woman who I was also told to work with. I didn't even know what she did, but I saw her on Facebook and I got the feeling. I didn't know what she did, but I got the prompt, and I was like, called her up and I was like, I'm supposed to work with you. What do you do? What do you got for me? And she's like, I do this, and that, but it's a year commitment to work with me. And I was like, I'm in, year commitment, let's go. So I flew to Boise to work with her. And as I was coming down the stairs thinking I was going to her and she was going to help me start this business, she was going to teach me the branding, and she was going to do photography. And I was walking down the stairs and I heard the name of the book is Still the Pain. And you're going to write about overcoming pain, grief, heartbreak, all of that stuff. And I was like, Still the Pain. I like that. Okay. So that's how that began. That was a long explanation.
That's actually pretty interesting. And I do the title. Well, as soon as I as soon as I saw it for the first time, I knew, I don't know that I ever heard that, like those words put together like that, but I instantly knew what this is about.
And it's funny because it's both ways. It's like, I'm still in pain, like still the pain, or
I didn't think of it that way.
Stop the pain. I was like, whoa, you could read that both ways. I was like,
that's kind of brilliant.
I didn't come up with it.
Okay, that's really interesting.
So I'd finished this book. I didn't know anything about publishing a book, let alone writing it, you know. But it all came out. In the time it was supposed to come out, it did. And so there were days I was told, like, go to the computer, start writing right now. Of course, I was dealing with heartbreak at the time still. And I had actually miscarried a baby while I was writing this book. And so the day that I had like miscarried, I was told to sit down and write about the pains I was having last night and what was going on mentally for me, and the experience I had in using the meditation practice to carry me through a very painful night, and to be able to move from like that amount of grief into like just peacefulness. So peaceful that I could actually sit down and write about it and be okay.
Wow. Wow, that's actually pretty interesting. These actually, you know what else I love? I love these covers.
Thank you.
They're pretty
all
cool.
Hearts, but different stages of it, different stages. So still the pain is, you know, in that, you know, phase when you're in the pain and the heartbreak. And so we did the black heart. But I also wanted to like bring in the flowers of like, there is still life here. Like this heart is in grief and sadness, but it's still there. And then we moved to the Soulmate Frequency, and this was a book that was totally channeled. Like it came in one day, I literally ran, grabbed a notebook, started writing down, and it was like sitting for hours, taking notes and notes and notes. And it was like, here's the outline, here's the first chapter. So it was just all channeled. And I love this one because we just did more of like springtime, something new is coming. And then the third book that came out of it was Communicating with Men. And so this one, I had the vision of doing, you know, this antique looking heart. Because when I think of communication, I think of like older people, you know, when they finally settle into the relationship and the communication is just naturally there, they can read each other. They've moved through all of this stuff, you know, the stuff that you fight about and you keep bringing up. Like they just settled into each other. And I was like, so I want this antique heart to represent like that wisdom. And then this is obviously the key to communicating. So we did the lock with it and, you know, just threw in the flowers and stuff as well. So
kind of
they are a series of books, but I didn't know that I was writing any of this in the beginning. I thought I was writing a book just about meditation, a meditation practice I learned in New Zealand.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What is the Soulmate Frequency about?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the base book because in the meditation practice, you're learning how to move into this space of, you know, you're emptying out all the emotions, you're emptying out the patterns, the belief systems you hold, and you're learning to bring in, like if I had a desire, want, need, I would visualize it and then learn how to feel what it feels like to live it. And it has like a frequency to it, right? And so you're learning to attune yourself to frequencies. So you can start distinguishing these, and then you use that as a point of creation, you know, with your body and different exercises. The Soulmate Frequency is about dating differently, for one, because what was downloaded to me was dating's kind of screwed. You don't have to go. This is where I get to say, you don't know anything about this, Robert.
Might be surprised. But yes.
But you know, it's like, it's turmoil nowadays. I mean, it's like ghosting left, this, right. I mean, and people are getting so upset they just don't even care. And back in the olden days, I really feel like when you watch older movies, it's like a guy courts a girl. There's an intention set, you know, like they're communicating about what's going on. They know what they're supposed to do, and everybody kind of plays their part. And that doesn't mean they have to be together, but there's like both agree to a set of rules, you know?
I understand what you're saying.
Nowadays, there are no rules in dating, and it's just chaotic misery, you know? This was like a kind of like a guideline that came in. Here's how you're going to treat dating from now on. 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12. Like that's what came in for me, was a time frame. And exactly what the relationship should and should not do in that time frame. And when it came in for me, I was actually with Lindsey, the lady that had done my photography, and I've worked with her for the last year. And she had just met somebody, and she was doing everything, like as normal, according to the book, everything that she should wait till month 9, she was already doing in that week. So I just read to her what I channeled, and she was like, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to try that out. So she called the guy up, and she actually told him, like, you know what? I want to change things. I want this to go well with you. Here's the outline I have for us. Would you be willing to try this out with me? And he was like, okay, I'll try it out. It changed everything for them.
Wow.
Yeah, better dynamic. So I was like, right off the bat, like as soon as it was channeled, I was like, this is pretty good stuff,
That's awesome.
So the first part of it is really teaching somebody to dive into that meditation practice again, where they're learning how to sit with the vision of the partner that they want. And then the second piece is, now once you're attuned to that frequency, you know what it feels like and you know it's coming in. Now, what are the actions? Because I'm really practical, especially because I deal with a lot of metaphysical stuff. I'm like, okay, where's the practicality in this? And that really comes to what you're going to do in your actions when you're dating. So it's like a 2-part book of like, here's how you do the meditation. And now let's apply this while you're dating, while you're in the world.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's heavier than I thought it. That's actually that's really interesting. This is the one that, when I saw this originally, I thought was at least it was the most interesting to me. I actually have a copy of it.
Communicating with men, it's what your mother should have taught you, but didn't know either.
Yeah.
I'm finding there's a lot of that happens. I love my mother, nothing against her. But we are not taught how to communicate. And in fact, women, I feel, are getting worse and worse at communicating. They're getting more and more angry, and they're doing exactly the opposite of what the book teaches. And it's really, men are very, I feel like, patient with women. They put up with a lot. They love her. They kind of just deal with it. Now I'm going to have all the women hating me for posting that. But on the flip side, this book is all of, did you read it?
I've read most of it.
What did you think? You tell me what you thought about it.
The thing that I've been down this road more times than you might realize. The reality of it is we do see things and act and talk and just differently. A lot of it, as I recall, emphasized the ultimate simplicity of how men tend to think.
I needed to go down to what is the most basic thing I could teach, where somebody could flip open this book to one chapter, right? One section, read it and apply it immediately and see a great shift with that one little piece. I didn't want them to have to sit down, read the whole book, and then come up with a plan on how do I start talking to a man. I wanted them to just have like everything they needed to make all of these shifts. And when they actually apply it, I think a lot of people, when they read it, they think, and even I did after I wrote it and read it again, I was like, that's really simple. But as I applied each one of them in my life with different men and saw the large results from them, I was like, it is very simple and it needs to be, because communication is so chaotic anyway. So how can I get back to the basics where it stops that flare up and it stops the miscommunication from happening and leaves people at least able, even if I didn't quite get all of you, the complexity of you, I can stick to that simplicity and allow room and space for curiosity instead of discord. But that's my perspective as the author. But you, yeah, so.
My experience with all this stuff myself is that we tend to project on other people the way we think. Right. Obviously, I think that's a really simple, obvious thing that we all do. And yet, even though we know it, that we do that, we still do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we understand that I'm projecting the way a man thinks on you. And even though I know I'm doing it, I'm still doing it. Right. And I don't try to fix it. A lot of people don't. And the beauty of what you've just done right there is that it's like, because you're never going to think like a man. And so it's like, the question is then how do you respond in a way that's going to make sense and motivate the man to do, or to be the kind of person you want him to be?
Right.
Because the reality of it is, you as a male, I can only speak for myself, but I think it's generally true. You really want the woman that you're with more than anything to like admire you. And you don't, it takes so little. It really takes, for at least for me, it takes so little to make me happy. I mean, like almost nothing. Yeah. If I, it's really funny. Like, I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago. Several years ago, I became the national spokesperson for a reverse mortgage company. Okay. And I was out in Denver, Colorado for about a week filming commercials, biggest set I've ever been on. All these different sets. There were probably 100 people working on this thing. And I'm the guy, right? I'm the main dude in all these commercials, the whole thing. So I have all the attention the whole time. It's just, I've never had an experience like that in my life. It was wild. Okay. It was the most amazing, wonderful experience. I shouldn't say that. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
But I didn't have anybody to appreciate it with me. And you want somebody to like admire it. That's it. It's like I want, and the whole time, I'm alone. and it was like, and it was so funny because I'm having one of the greatest experiences of my life and I don't care.
Right.
Because I don't have somebody to go to feel like this person really admires me. And then beyond that, and I'm going to explain something to you because it expands into something else. And you do touch on these things. And this is what's so important. My father said something a few years ago that kind of freaked me out just a little bit. So he's 80 something like that. And at his age, he is going around every single day. He's retired and I think they've got plenty of money and all, the other stuff. So what he does is he and my mom, they go to church buildings in his 80s and he trims trees, picks up trash, shovels snow, all the stuff. And he's got a whole bunch of buildings that he just goes around and takes care of. It's all he does. And he said something where one time I was over there visiting him and he goes, it's like this old guy here still has a purpose, something like that.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting about that is I started thinking back to my grandfather when he passed away. And I started thinking about to all the men that I've known as you get older, and I started seeing it myself. It's like, if I can't be of value to somebody, then I don't feel like I even belong. Like there's any reason for me to be around.
Yeah.
And it ties back to that thing that I said a little bit ago. I'm on this massive set and all this cool stuff is happening, but it didn't matter.
Right.
And so even though, you could have said, well, yeah, you've got this big thing and there's all these people that be impacted. And yeah, whatever. But there was this little part of you that I wanted to be able to make all that money and give it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be married to somebody and go, here.
Look what I brought home.
This is for you. Yeah, I don't want this money.
Yeah.
I don't need this money. I want you to have this money. I want you to do whatever you see. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't. And so if I'm unable to do something for you, if I can't actually serve you as a female, then I don't really want to be there.
Right.
And it's such an important part. And so one of the things that gets lost a lot of times is, especially with a man, okay, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be your time to talk, but I do want to share something with you because maybe this will actually be useful. One of the most wonderful things, this is going to sound so weird, but one of the things I love probably more than anything else in the world, I'm relatively tall. I'm like 6 foot-ish, 6'1", the doctor says, but I think I'm 6 foot, is walking down the aisle in a grocery store and having a lady say, can you reach that for me? I don't know what it is. I can't even explain it. But it's like my heart leaps and I'm like, yeah.
Yes, I can do that for you.
I can reach that. And just that moment of like, I can touch the top shelf. I can get whatever you need.
Yeah.
And I can bring it. And you got this short little woman there. And there is something about that moment where I don't want you to give me anything. I received everything I need by getting that thing off the shelf for you. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get paid. I don't even need you to say thank you. I really don't. I mean, it's nice, but I don't. I just need the opportunity to give you something and feel like you the fact that I'm standing there towering over you and I can reach up and hand you this thing. You see what I'm saying?
I
it's
know
like this
saying.
animal version of admiration. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by that. And so there's this thing deep down that if a woman really understood that thing, like taking the lid off the jar, dude, it probably doesn't make sense to females. I don't know, because I don't know how women think, but you don't understand that the moment of I can take this lid off this jar, how much that matters.
Right.
This tiny, tiny little thing, and I feel so connected to you. The fact that I can do this and that you can actually. And then there's that, maybe admiration's the wrong word.
I'm wondering if it could be a different word. You know, like you've used that one, and I think every man uses a different word. But I guess the translation to women would be useful, you know?
Yes.
I want to be useful.
I want to be useful. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I've actually said that to females in the past where I'm like, if I can't be useful here, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I want to be... I won't go into detail, but I've gone and helped with certain things before, and I've actually said that. I'm like, I don't want to do this just because everybody. If I can't be useful here with you, I don't have any interest in being here. Mm-hmm. I want you to put me to work. I want to be doing something that actually adds value to your life, and if I can add value to your life, that is the entire reward.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's actually what I'm after.
Right. You spoke that really well. I love that. Anyway. I did go into that a lot in the beginning of the book. It
seems like I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was going through it, because there were times when I was reading this where I was like, yeah, she's got it. That's it. That's pretty much it. She's anyway, so I didn't get all the way through the book. I'm probably halfway through or a little over halfway through the thing. And I'm like, yeah, this is, and by the way, one of the things I love about the way you wrote this book is it doesn't look like just big blocks of text. You've done a lot to organize it so that it's eye friendly. Mm-hmm. One of the things I do graphic design. I've been doing it forever.
I did all of the formatting myself, and smart. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, so this is great.
There's so many things you should do to help to basically give your eyes a break and to guide you where you're going. And I remember, I probably speaking out of turn, but I mean, yeah, look at this. I mean, I'm just looking at this right here. Just the way it's organized, you can just, first of all, white space, so important to have the white space.
So I have a good story about this.
The headers with extra spaces. And like I said, I've laid out books. I've done publications. I've done so much of this work in my life. When I look at stuff like this, I instantly can go, but mistake, shouldn't have done that. Oh yeah,
there's probably a ton in there. But here's the story about that. So if you don't mind me interrupting, and I love this compliment because I did everything with these books on my own,
it's really nice.
Not knowing what I did. So, but all of it was guided. So when I was formatting this first book, okay, so let me get to this. Let me backpedal for a second. I wrote the book. There's transcripts there. I don't know what's next because I was told to write it. I'm going to listen to that. So I write it. It gets done. And now I'm like, well, what's my next step? I don't know. I guess I need an editor. So I'm reaching out, trying to find an editor, looking online for editors, calling some up. None of them felt right. And I started to get frustrated because I'd interviewed a ton of them, but I didn't get that feeling that I had been looking for to make this happen. I mean, the meditation, I'm living it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I want to make this smooth. So I'm in Boise. I had rented an Airbnb And I sat down on the couch, transcripts with me, and I look up and I'm just like, dude, Divine, if you want this like printed, a book, like show me my editor. A face popped into my mind. I was like, really? Okay. Looked her up, found her on Facebook. She edited the book. Wow. Same thing happened when it came to formatting. So I knew like some kind of structuring idea that I needed to do in the book in order to I don't know what it was for. So I got online and I was looking for programs that I could format the book myself. I couldn't find a program that would allow me to do what I needed to do. And some of those formatting programs are not that cheap. And this is a budget book, first one, and a single mom trying to pull this off. And I was given this weird name in meditation. I can't even remember. It started with a V, and it said, go type it in right now online. So I typed in this weird name. It pulled up that company, but that company wasn't I was looking for. But the next below it was Atticus Formatting Publishing. And I was like, oh, what do they do? Clicked on it, looked at their formatting program, but they couldn't tell me if what I needed I'd be able to do in this program. So I went back into meditation. I'm like, is this program the one? Because it's a lot of money. I'm on a budget. It was like, yes, this is the program, buy it. So I bought it, opened it up, bam, everything I'd been looking for in a formatting program. And I was like, cool. So anyway, I did format those. There's probably lots you can find in their mistakes, but it was one of those pieces that it was like guided from the meditation. And every step has been like that, okay, now I need to do this next thing. What do I do? And what I love about this particular meditation practice when you're doing it is you don't get too much. Like you have to see the overall end, like you have to know what you're going for. But for me, I tend to get overwhelmed if I have too much to do. And so when answers would come in through the practice, they would literally be exactly what I needed. Sometimes they would be a lot of steps, but a lot of steps I could handle. And sometimes it'd be one small thing. It was like, this is all you got. And I'm like, don't you got more for me? I can handle this. And it was like, this is all you got. And it was right. Interesting. Yeah. So thank you for the compliment. And it's a different style writing. I know you've read through this one where I felt like I was kind of writing this one to, trying to do the voice of like my girlfriend, like, hey, come on, girl. I don't normally talk like that, but I wanted it to be like me and her chill. Like, here's the advice.
It definitely has that.
And it had that in that one. These books are very different written. Okay. Like this one, when I started writing that, it was just my voice. And in fact, one of the things about finding the editors, I found an editor that I didn't like was they changed my voice so much. They wanted me to edit so much. And I thought, no, how I wrote it is how it's supposed to be written. You can't change that, So that's why I kept looking and looking, because I knew there was actual, the way I wrote it was important. And I've had a couple women. I had one woman in particular come to me when she started reading the book, and she said, I read it every morning over breakfast, only a couple pages at a time, but it feels like you infused some kind of energy into every page, and I just sit there and let myself absorb it as I read.
That's pretty cool.
And I think that was part of not changing it, because there was for particular wording, like sentences, words that I wouldn't typically use, my own speech language. And you'll learn that in the meditation practice. When you start connecting into like your divine self, you'll realize that the phraseology changes. And how I'll know if I'm getting more of an inspiration, is the cadence changes in the voice I'm hearing. It won't be my particular language that I'm hearing. It will be a different wording that I normally don't use. And that's what kind of clues me in, because sometimes the words will just start coming in and I think I'm talking to myself, and then I'll hear a word that I don't ever use. And I'm like, wait a second, what did I just tell myself? And then I'll tune in and be like, oh, okay, that was a download. That was information for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you got these 3 books, and let's bust that out real quick.
Yeah. So this is the workbook. I didn't know I was going to do this workbook, actually.
I haven't seen this.
It wasn't necessarily like the inspirational thing that happened. This was more of a marketing thing where I was told to get a certain program to learn to market books, because you can publish books and put it on Amazon, but then you're competing against millions of books online. I mean, if you publish on Amazon, I was so happy the day I got on Amazon, and I love it when people are able to do that, especially if they don't write their books with AI, but they typically don't sell. They just don't sell themselves. So I needed a program. So I started into this program, really great program if you're looking for one out there. Steve Piper. I'll put some information in this video about him. But I started into this long process of learning how to do Google ads, or not Google ads, to do meta ads, how to actually build the ad from scratch and test it, every aspect of it. Like you're testing your image, you're testing your headline, you're testing, and you're making sure you get a good click-through rate, and you're watching your cost of the ad. So then you're working on the description of the book. So I'd gone through all this ad testing, process, and I thought, oh man, I've got all these ads. Okay, now I'm going to sell this book. Well, then I get deeper into his program, and he was like, yeah, you got to have at least like this many books. It was like 6 at least.
No kidding.
I got 3 books. And he's like, to make it marketable in our day and age with how much it costs you to get a client, you have to have at least this much, And I was like, crap, what am I going to do? I've got 3 books, would I just sit on them? So I was like going into meditation. I was like, okay, what do I do with this problem? Because it's always the next problem, that comes up. Instantly, it was like, write a workbook. It's a trilogy workbook. It covers all 3 books. You're just going to sell it for, as one, but you're going to cover all 3 books. And what this did for me is realize the value in the others, because I was breaking down, like, how do people apply this? Really apply it. Like, I like to go deep on stuff, and I want it to be impactful and change somebody. I don't want fluffy questions or like stupid like journaling prompts. It's not busy work. It's, if I really wanted to make a change, a shift now, what is the best question I could ask myself? What is the best practice I could do? There's 3 sections in this book that focus on every book and applying everything in them.
Cool.
So wow. I got that one out, and now it's a bundle. So if somebody, orders it, like the whole thing, shows up all packaged together, and I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually pretty neat. Now you say you have it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. I don't sell on Amazon. I focus on Instagram and Facebook.
When you say you don't sell on Amazon, you're not running ads on Amazon.
I'm not running ads on Amazon. It's just like sitting there. And it's typically where somebody will come in and they've gone through like the ad to the sales funnel, but they're not committed to all 3 books yet. And so they're just like, well, I'll do this one. I'll check it out. So it's like the side income that comes in from that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's all been a big process the last 2 years. Like, didn't know that I would be doing this 2 years ago. But I actually had the thought, and it was funny, we were talking about premonition earlier in your video on Audiomovers. I can't remember what I was doing, but the other day I remember that I was in the car with my best friend Jill at the time, and I must have been like 16 or 17 in that stage of like, you're struggling with your parents and life and all kinds of stuff. And I looked at her and I said to her, one day I'm going to write a book, and I'm just going to be super honest about all my shit and put it out there. Literally, that book is my shit, and I'm putting it out there.
No kidding.
So I thought about that the other day. So I started thinking, what else did I tell myself as a kid I was going to do? Because it might happen.
Well, this is kind of amazing stuff, and
thank you.
And I tell you something, it's something that probably, just as we've talked about these, because like I said, I only know the one, but I think that all 3 of these things are pretty timely. When we're living in a day and age right now where we have an enormous amount of disconnection.
Right.
We have an enormous amount of miscommunication.
Oh.
We have an enormous amount of projection.
Yeah.
And when you have these different things where somebody understanding how to getting back, I think that you said something about this earlier, and this probably plays into this on some level. You talked about the rules that we all had in previous generations. Those rules not only don't really apply anymore, they almost can't. Because we've created this whole new world where like dating sites, where the whole thing, so you lose the skill to just go up and talk to somebody. Like this is a problem for young men.
Yeah.
Like they don't develop that ability to have the confidence or the skill or whatever to just go have a conversation with somebody, because so many of the world, the online world we have right now, especially in the dating world, it's more like I just have a menu. I mean, if you've been on the dating sites, which I have plenty, That's really what it is. Swipe right, swipe left, see pictures, blah,
and
blah,
even
blah,
then,
blah,
the
blah.
communication that starts off the bat, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah. And what makes it worse is texting might be the worst way to possibly communicate with another person, because you can't have all of the other things that you need to have.
Right.
For example, sarcasm. How do you know?
Right.
You can't read somebody's body language. You'd have a better chance getting to know somebody probably in person, not saying anything, than you would in some cases texting. I know I'm being hyperbolic.
Actually, you're not. And I'll tell you why in a sec.
There's so much about body language, and there's so much about the presence and the interaction that way, that and the comfort level and all those other things that happen, because there's so many people, and everybody. I think everybody understands this. Throughout your life, there's certain people that you meet, and within seconds you're just like, they're not my person.
Right.
And it doesn't. I'm not even talking about romantic relationships.
Right.
I've met hundreds of men in my life that for whatever reason I meet them like, I don't like this guy. I don't know why. I don't have anything against him. I just don't want to be around this dude. And then there are some people like Gary. It's my friend that comes and does a show with me.
We all love Gary.
The day we met back when we were 18 years old, it was just like we just kind of get each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how do you explain it. And you have that, and when you can have that happen in a romantic sense, but you'll never ever get that through a dating site. You can have that experience next to the tomatoes. You know what I mean? Where you just talk to somebody and within 30 seconds or a minute, you're like, you haven't built a relationship or anything, but you just know, you're like,
Right.
We kind of, whatever it is, we just kind of get in, and that is that skill and that ability has been sidelined because that is now step 5 instead of step 1.
Right. It's funny you're talking about that because it's not quite the same thing, but I have in this Soulmate Frequency, before the first date, it's called the heart test. And you have to learn to develop this sense. Like you're talking about, you kind of just know if somebody's for you. There is something in women that allow them to assess a man to know if he is a good match for her on all levels. I call it the heart test. And you go into the first date after you've practiced learning this test first, and you tune into the space that I teach you in the meditation, and you listen for the yes or the no. And I started practicing this myself, and I would go on a date and I would wait for that yes or no. And I remember a particular date. I was super excited about the date. We had text, went well. We had talked, it went well. I thought this guy had it all. Like, it was slam dunk. It's going to be good. And all the signs seemed to be that way. The communication seemed to be that way. And so I'm now showing up for the first date to kind of now have that let's meet in person. And I opened the door because we're meeting at this small winery, and he was sitting across the room, and I just immediately saw him. And as I opened the door, I remember this feeling hit me, and the feeling was disappointment. And I was like, well, that's odd. Like, he's handsome, and everything seems like it's going to go right. And I sat down on the table, and the next thought was, he's not what you had thought. And I was like, what? Am I being so judgmental? Well, I ended up not listening to it at the time because everything else was telling me go for it. 3 months later, just everything switched. Where it was going great, it just like dumpster dive down, like the worst relationship ever.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start listening to that. So I call it the heart test. I teach women how to do it. And so now I use that. And it's not a judgment of them like they're bad or anything. It's just like this sense that women have, like, would this be an actual mate for me? Like, would he be good for a mate for me? Because I could have actually got along with that guy well, and we probably could have had a good relationship. But but it wasn't right for me. And so part of that, the first step in this, after you learn the meditation, is the heart test. Learn this heart test because it's never steered me wrong. And I started using it. And I would, even if I got a no, I would for a little while keep going on dates because I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see, why did my heart say no? Why did that test say no to this one? And after a few times of going through it and it always being right, I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen to it.
It's such a fascinating thing. I don't know anything about the heart test, but like I said a few minutes ago, I do know that there are just that to me, it's like the way I describe it is just there's this sense with certain people, you get around them and you're like, I can get, and to you, back to your point, it's like, it seems like, and maybe I'm not totally getting it, but it's a step beyond that. It's because you said something that's really important that I think we overlook a lot, that two responsible, respectable adults, normal adults, could have a fine relationship. I mean, you could like, if you could have a relationship with somebody that's just a decent person and you'd be fine, but it wouldn't be that person that you're talking about. Because you were just saying that a second ago, like you met this person, like it probably could have been. Okay. Yeah. And
we could have made it work.
Yeah. Yes. Right. And that's actually a really fascinating thing to think about. Because I know this is getting way off course.
I don't know. It's great.
But every relationship, I was having this conversation, no joke, a few days ago. And because most relationships eventually get to a point, like I said, all other things being equal, they're not doing illegal things, they're not physically abusive, all this other stuff. They're just decent, normal people. Most people, when you get 30 years into your relationship, it's either going to be slightly better or slightly worse than anybody else. You know what I mean? It's not like there's some dramatic thing that's, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? And maybe I'm wrong about this, but there is a certain point that you get to where things settle in.
They settle.
And it's almost like that's next level stuff. Man, I tell you, I've got this in my mind so much, and I don't mean to, now I'm just talking personally, but so many of these things can only be accomplished with time. Like relationships. And I actually love the fact that you talk about, you have this thing, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, for that very reason. Because I was listening to, this isn't going to sound like it applies, but it does. I was listening to Paul Stanley, the guitarist frontman for Kiss, the guy with the star.
Oh, I love how he's bringing Kiss into this.
Okay. So he was talking about his relationship with Gene Simmons. And Gene Simmons is the tongue, the split, fire, blood, all that kind of stuff. Okay?
Right.
Those are the guys that basically started Kiss. Okay. And they're the ones that have always been in it. And Paul Stanley makes this comment, and he says, there's a lot of things Gene does that I don't get and I don't like. And he says, but he's as close to a brother as I will ever have. Mm. And he says, it's a relationship that you can only get by having the amount of time that we've had together. Mm. That one thing of allowing time to pass. And that's why that struck me when you said that. You've got 3, 6, 9, but then you've got 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, that you get to a point that, and this is beyond what your books are about, I know.
Well, I don't think they are, because if you don't mind me interrupting, that happens, and it normally takes a long time to get there because you fight so much through. There's this time where you do figure each other out, right? And the simplicity of that last book, Communicating with Men, was to try to take out that scrambling fight. Try to, after the honeymoon phase, and shorten the time that you can get to that place of comfortability. We just work together. And an understanding of the partner, at least the basic foundation of understanding the other, so you can understand them. You get it.
That's a really good point, because when I'm listening, because one of the things Paul Stanley said was with a relationship like that, he's, first of all, the only way you can get the kind of trust that those guys have is just time. There's no other way to get it. You can't have that kind of trust in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or whatever. It takes a certain amount of time. But he also said, and you have to know the person enough to understand, and what he was saying is understand the limitations that they have.
Right.
And if you can figure out those things, figure out where they're coming from, what their limitations are, what they can give you and what they can't give you, the rest of it's pretty easy.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we're saying here, is that if you can somehow kind of understand what a man can give to you and what he wants,
what he wants to give to you, what he loves to give to you, and when he can't,
and what he's not able to do. If you can just understand those things, and like Paul Stanley was like, and just accept it. And that was his whole thing. It's like, I know what Gene can and can't do, and I don't try to get something out of him that I know he can't give me.
Right.
So we've spent 60 years together in a band, or whatever, 50 years together. He's like a brother. And I know what he can and can't do. And he says at this point, it's like the one person in his life that he can trust more than anybody else, even though there's a lot of this.
Yeah.
But the point is, he understands this.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Okay, that's never. So I don't even put that on. I don't put that onto the other person, because it can't happen, and all you're going to do is make everybody mad.
Yeah.
So and be frustrated.
And I think nowadays we don't have enough of the foundation of just understanding the opposite sex and understanding basic communication with the opposite sex, that we can't even get the time we need to get to that place.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying earlier, that so many of the young people coming up now, that skill is completely, like, it's lost.
Right.
They don't learn it. And so it just causes all these kind of problems, and then dating turns into a menu, and then that just makes everything. And it's funny, because the animal part of us has been evolving for hundreds of millions of years, and we think we can just waltz in 2025 and pretend like that's not wired into us. Because we almost forget that the world existed before we showed up. And not only did it exist, it's been around. And if you're when you try to fight that, when you fight nature, you will lose.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. If you look at the amount of information we have, a girl wants to learn to communicate with a guy, she's just going to flip through, some kind of app, and she's going to learn this, and that. And I think a lot of the information that's out there is probably applicable and could be true, but they neglect the instincts that are why we do what we do. They're so foundational that they trump those things. It's almost like you're missing the context, right? Like, you can't apply a principle if you don't know the context of where to apply it. And so I love that I was able to find and hone in on what are the drivers for men? What are the instincts? How do they just operate on a very simplistic base level that I could teach a woman, because it's so different than her way. And in fact, they don't align well. What men do instinctually really pisses women off, and what women do really pisses men off. It's very counter. Mm-hmm. And so if they can just learn that piece and just have the understanding of that operating system, they don't have to become it. They don't have to cater to it. They actually can enhance everything if they understand it.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's awesome.